Hello writers, today I'm going to show you how to format your research paper in MLA style, 9th edition. Like any citation style, there are many rules that could impact our writing. Many more than I could cover in a single video. Therefore today, I'm only going to talk about two things. The basic format of an MLA paper and how to set it up in a Google Docs document. And 2, common mistakes students make when citing sources and how Scribbr may help. First, I'm going to show you the basic components of an MLA paper. And later in this video, I will show you how to structure that in a Google Docs document. So the first component is the page number. That goes at the top right corner of every page. There are 2 components to this component. The first is page number. The second is your last name. The next component is what your first page should look like. So the first page should have 4 components at the top left corner. The first is your first and last name. Second is your instructor's first and last name. Third is your class and section number. And fourth is a date. Now, pay attention to the special format of the date. It's first, day, month, and year. No comma. Now let's talk about recommended fonts, size, and double spacing. So, the recommended fonts for MLA style are Arial, Times New Roman, and Calibri. Size fonts could be between size 11 and size 13. All papers should follow double spacing. Component 4 is the title and subheadings. Titles are centered of the paper. Subheadings are flush left and bolded and typically follow a larger font than the body. If you have subheadings within a section, those are typically italicized and flushed left as well, and same font size as the body. When it comes to capitalizations of headings, you typically capitalize every word except articles, which are a, and the, prepositions such as to, in, and at, and any fanboys, which are for, and, nor, but, or, yet, and so. The next component is paragraphs and indenting. So something that will help readers is if you break up a large text into multiple paragraphs. At the start of every paragraph, you have to make sure that you indent that first sentence ½ an inch. When it comes to research papers, you may need to include your interview questions and survey questions in your paper. If you don't find it fit to include it within your methods section, you might include it as a separate paper known as an appendix. An appendix goes right before the works cited on a separate page, so every extra document or extra information that you want to share with your reader can be included in an appendix. An appendix follows this format. You have a title that is centered, and it typically has Appendix A, B, or C labeled to indicate which appendix is which, and you do so include it in your paper as well to indicate which is which, and you also give it a title to indicate to your reader what this appendix is referencing. The last format that I want to talk about is the works cited. That goes on a separate page at the very end of your paper after appendix if you have any. So the heading is centered just like the appendix is, and all sources are alphabetized. They follow a special indenting where the first line is flushed completely left and every line after that is indented ½ an inch. Now I'm going to show you how to structure your paper in a Google Docs document following MLA style, starting with component number 1, which is the page number. So to insert page number on a Google Docs, you first go to Insert, scroll down to where it says Page Elements, and look for where it says #page numbers. There you'll get 4 options. You want to make sure that you click the one that has for the top right corner. It will automatically add the page number. What you want to do is put your mouse before the number and type in your last name. That will ensure that you have both of the mandatory components, your last name and page number. The next component is the first page components, which should include 4 things. So what you want to do is type in your first and last name. Then you want to click enter and click your instructor's first name and last name. Then click enter again, input your class name and section, enter one more time and type in the day, month, and year that your paper is supposed to be submitted. So before moving on, you want to make sure that your paper follows the proper font, size, and double spacing. So to do that, first you want to highlight all the work that you just typed in. Go at the top right where you will see font size options. And again, the recommended for MLA are Arial, Calibri, and Times New Roman. So click any one of those. I'm going to go with Arial because that's my favorite. Right next to the font, you have the size options. So once you click on that, you'll have options to either decrease or increase the font size. Again, recommended for MLA is between 11 to 13. I'm going to keep it at size 11. And lastly, we need to double space it. So to double space, you come to the top right options where it says line and paragraph spacing. It is right next to the checklist. When you click on it, you'll get different options. You want to make sure that you click on the one that says double, and that will automatically double the space for that section. You may need to do that for the rest of your paragraphs if it doesn't do that automatically. The next component is a title and subheadings. So after you have typed in your title in your paper, the one thing you want to do is highlight and go to the top right corner to where it says Align and Indent. There you'll have 4 options. You want to make sure that you click the center align and it will center your title. For subheadings, you want to make sure that your subheadings are flushed left. So once you have typed in your subheadings, go to Align and Indent and click the first option where it says Left Align. Then, as mentioned previously, subheadings need to be in bold. So to do that, you will go to the option that's right next to the font size that says a big B. You click on that and that will bold your subheading. And what you want to do is just increase the font size. The next component is creating paragraphs and indenting that first line. So as mentioned previously, it really helps readers to follow through on your text if you break up large text into multiple paragraphs. So to break up large text into a paragraph, you first take your mouse and put it in the place where you want to start a new paragraph, and all you do is click Enter. So one thing that you want to do once you're ready to indent is put your mouse at the very front of that first line of a paragraph and click Tab. Tab is one of the keys on your keyboard, and that will indent. And every time you start a new paragraph, it should indent automatically. The next component is Appendix. Not every research paper will have one, but if you need one, I'm going to show you how to structure one. The first thing you want to make sure is that your appendix will be on a separate page. So to do that, you're going to click on the top left corner where it says Insert, and you're going to include where it says Break, then click on Page Break. And that will make sure that your appendix is on a separate page. Once you're on a separate page, you type in your title. Again, label it Appendix A, B, or C to differentiate between your different appendix, and your title to indicate to your readers what is this appendix about. Once you have your title, all you have to do is highlight it, center it by going back to Align and Indent and clicking that second option that says Center Align. And then from there, you include your information and you could insert a new page for any new appendix. The last component is the works cited. So the works cited should also be included in another page. So you're going to follow the same process as an appendix. You're going to insert, page break, in order to start a new page. Then from there, you want to type in your sources or copy them from any separate document where you might have them. And then you want to start reorganizing them in alphabetical order. That is step 1. Then step 2 is to create that hanging indent. So the hanging indent is created very similar to how we indented a first paragraph. So we are going to go this time put our mouse at the end of our first line. Then we're going to click Enter or Return. And then you're going to click Tab at the second sentence. And then you're going to go back and put your mouse at the end of that second sentence and click Enter again. Then you're going to go back and click Enter for any other lines that follow under that. So now that I've reviewed the common formatting of an MLA paper, now I'm going to talk about common mistakes students make when citing sources. The first is, if I didn't cite a quote from my source, I don't have to cite it, right? So, some background on this. First, what is a quote? So a quote is a word-by-word exact phrase that is copied from the source into your writing and uses quotation marks. That is what students associate with citation if they use direct words. But a quote is not the only way that you cite sources or that you use information from your sources. You also use it when you paraphrase or when you put into your own words. Therefore, regardless of whether you got information and put in your own words or if you used quote by quote direct words from the source, you still need to cite your sources. Another common mistake students make is, to cite my sources, I just need a link, right? Wrong. So, a link is only one of the components that are required in a works cited video. I don't have enough space and time in this video to cover all the different ways in which you could cite sources, but Scribbr is one of the ways that I'm going to show you in a little bit that could be a tool to help you figure out what are the different components. But a link is never just enough, because a link just tells someone where you got the source, but not exactly who is the author or what is the title of this source. Therefore, a link is never just enough to indicate to your reader, hey, this is where I got my information from. It shows that you didn't take the time to properly look through the author and evaluation of the source. So now I'm going to talk to you a little bit about this tool that I found called Scribbr. So to find this, you just type in scribbr.com and this takes you to a homepage that might look something like this. So this is the tool that I like to use to verify that I am locating the appropriate information I need to cite my sources. So what I typically do is I use its search feature to indicate what type of source I'm looking for. So for example, if I wanted to cite a YouTube video or I wanted to cite this video in my paper, I will input how to cite a video in MLA style. And it will click on the one that's specifically for MLA style. And when I do so, it's going to indicate that I could include my reference list entry as such in the screen and my parenthetical. So I want to first talk to you about the difference between those two terms. The parenthetical is an in-text citation, which is very important in a research paper. That is something that goes in the paper as you're talking about the source and indicates to your readers, here is the shorthand of where I got my information from. As you can see here in this example, it is typically the author, the contributor, the person responsible for this source. The reference list entry is our works cited entry. So that is what you would copy into your works cited page, and it will follow the structure that is indicated. And as you can see in a YouTube video, you do include the link, but it is not the only. The final mistake students make is, I use a citation generator, so my sources have to be correct, right? Wrong. So I have seen multiple occasions in which students use a citation generator, they don't verify to make sure that the information is accurate, and the citation ends up being incorrect. So citation generators are a great starting point if you're having difficulty with formatting your citations, but they do not 100% guarantee that they're going to be accurate. Sometimes a citation generator uses any information that it first finds to complete the citation. So it may not get the correct date, it might not get the correct name of your source or even the author. So it is very important that when you use a citation generator that you verify, and you verify that it's the appropriate information. My recommendation for using citation generators is that you first locate all the information that it needs, and then you manually input that information into the citation generator so it's more likely to be accurate. I hope this has been helpful in giving you an overview of how to format your research paper following MLA style. As mentioned earlier, MLA style has lots of rules that could impact a paper, many more than could be described in one video, otherwise I'll be here for hours. Therefore, if you have further questions or need help with citing your paper in MLA style, my recommendation is to visit the MLA handbook or talk with your instructor.